I was very struck by this podcast that Harry did today with Hassan Minhaj, in which he basically seemed to, well, he very clearly said that he didn't think it was a good idea to post pictures of your children online. In fact, this is what he said. And I have to say, he said this, it was about 50 minutes into the interview. And I think perhaps the reason why it hasn't been picked up by anyone is because this interview is a piece of such flabbergasting sycophancy. I mean, it's virtually unlistenable to, just with Harry ranting away, completely unchallenged, just going on and on. I mean, really out there, kind of saying that the leaders of all the tech companies are evil and wicked, and I'm sure lots of people would agree with his fundamental point that the regulations of tech companies for children are inadequate, and it's scary if you're a parent. As I know, it is scary. But then anyway, this is what he said. Parents should be really, really worried, concerned, and cautious about putting photographs of their kids online, especially now with this surge of unregulated AI. You just don't know where it's going to go. I mean, to me, it just felt very like he was chastising his wife, who keeps posting pictures of their children online. And they did it again this weekend. Cutesy picture of this cutesy picture of them at the pumpkin patch, and guess what? They made a mistake, and the kids' faces were included, and they're now all over I mean, Archie's face, you can see completely what he looks like. Lilibet's face is kind of blurred, but we've had half of Lilibet's face, we've had the top half, and then we've had the bottom half, and we've had the three-quarter profile and the this profile. And, I'm not surprised that Harry feels annoyed about it or pissed off about it, because, like, if you think of his whole childhood being, so kind of disrupted by having his privacy invaded, it must be kind of weird that your missus is sort of, you know, putting them online and invading the privacy just themselves. And I know, like, it's normal, and I know lots of people do this, and I know lots of families share images of their kids online, and lots of famous people put images of their kids online to burnish their brand and all of that. But what I really felt about this interview was that it shows that Harry actually understands that, he actually grasps that the fact that just because everybody else is doing it doesn't mean it's an acceptable thing to do. And I thought that the other really interesting thing was that the interviewer talked about Sora, which is it's this amazing AI app that can kind of piece together images and generate images. So, yeah, and clearly, obviously, Sora would be able now to piece together from all the images that we've had of Archie and Lilibet, all the half profiles, the three-quarter profiles, the blurry faces, the less blurry face. Sora would definitely be able to do it. I mean, I don't think it would, because I think it would be protected, but I'm sure there's clever people who can figure out who would be able to figure out a workaround in 5 minutes. But the point that I felt was really interesting is that because of their screw up posting the kids' faces on, like, you don't need Sora. You don't need Sora to know what those kids look like. All you need to do is, look at the sun, which had like the image right there. Like, the children's appearances are no mystery. Follows the piece together what they look like, and I don't know, it's just like it's just nonsense, really, isn't it? This whole thing of, like, you know, it feels like wanting to have your cake and eat it. It's like, we're not going to show their faces because we're so keen to protect their privacy. But at the same time, by putting them on social media and not showing their faces, it's creating this massive circus around the identity of the children, around what they look like, around what they're doing, about why they're never photographed. There's a whole massive conspiracy theory online that they're all involved with Palantir and all these tech companies are also scrubbing the kids' faces before they appear online and stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? It becomes one of these sort of, it's almost like, the Barbara Streisand effect, isn't it? Where you try and, mm, I don't know. It just feels to me very inauthentic. Like, to keep saying, like, we're protecting the children's identities by blurring their faces or putting emojis on their faces, and yet that's inevitably increasing massive interest in them. I mean, one of Harry's friends told me, in what I felt sounded very like terms that he doesn't really approve of the way his wife is going about it, said that he'd be quite happy if social media didn't exist, full stop. He isn't a fan of it at all. That's why he isn't on it. He's very protective of the kids. He feels it isn't a safe space. He worries about the impact it will have on his kids. So I thought that was kind of really interesting that, obviously, look, this wasn't a direct rebuke of his wife. This wasn't him having an argument with his wife, but I did write earlier that it felt like a bit like a domestic subtweet. It slightly reminded me of when um, Grimes posted about her kid with Musk, saying it was named after their favorite rocket or something. He said, "Well, it's our second favorite rocket." It feels like an argument that is going on at their kitchen table that has now spilled out into this wider world. And I think that actually part of the reason for it is because they do these incredibly softball interviews where, like, Harry, I'm sorry, but he is not media trained, and he is not at a level where he should be being trusted with 50 minutes of rambling to say whatever he wants. Like, it's incredibly, and anyone, and I know loads of you guys who are watching probably, have your own Substacks and have done Substack lives, and, like, I'm just a journalist, right? It doesn't really matter what I say as long as I don't say anything that's, libelous or something like that. But it doesn't really matter. It's like a small number of people, might be interested in what I say, but it's not going to make global world news all around the world. Whereas everything that Harry does, and if you allow yourself to go and talk for 50 minutes in this incredibly informal softball atmosphere, you're going to end up saying something really stupid. And the irony of it all, of course, is that it's all being paraded on YouTube. The whole interview is being paraded on social media. There's, like, literally, and the version on YouTube I was watching where Harry's going on about how dangerous and awful AI is, the ads in between were for AI. They were about, like, and they weren't even like the automatic ads that just algorithmically get suggested because, it accidentally picks up someone's talking about AI. It was the host going, "Why don't you why don't you use this brilliant AI app to, increase the efficiency of your business and your email system?" And you're just like, I mean, I don't know. In a way, I totally get it, and I think that the children's network thing, that the parents network memorial that Harry did, was incredibly moving. When he is brilliant, and look it up if you don't know what I'm talking about. He's walking on stage and he goes, "I have a picture of my kids on my phone. What do you have?" And of course, look, those of us who have kids do tend to have our kids on a phone. And then he shows behind this wall of, 500 screensaver, 150 screensavers of kids who've, taken their own life because of social media bullying. And it's a really, really important issue. And I think it's really unfortunate that the main proponent of it, his wife, is a massive participant in that ecosystem. And I just don't see how anyone cannot have said to them, and it was odd also because, like, there's also this big Us Weekly cover out today where it talks about how they're going in separate paths and they're professionally dividing and all this kind of stuff. which I think is, clearly very true. And we've been hearing that narrative for a while. And I don't think it should be conflated with them personally separating or anything like that. But I genuinely don't. And someone asked me earlier, do I think they're going to separate? And my answer is absolutely not, because they are making tens of millions of dollars a year still, doing what they're doing, and that's always good for a relationship, isn't it? Right? When the money when the money's flowing, when the money stops flowing, it might be a different matter. But for the moment, absolutely not. And part of the social media definitely is about portraying them as this very close couple, Harry in his bare feet, looking admiringly at her giggling and laughing. It's all very careful and very shinily. And to be fair, it's brilliantly done. And they obviously have great video editing, and they have all that kind of stuff. But like ultimately, there is a massive problem if you're going to make your key signature campaign the evils of social media, if you are such a powerful part of the social media ecosystem yourself. That's just what I feel. And I think that it is a problem for them now. And I think it's going to be a bigger problem for them as this goes on. So that's pretty much all I have to say. I just wanted to do, as I said, a quick live, because me and Tim aren't doing anything today. But I hope we'll be back tomorrow. We've kind of just decided that we're only going to do it if there's like genuinely stuff to talk about. We don't want to just be filling space talking rubbish about nothing. So there's got to be a story for us to talk about. But yeah, and thanks so much for everyone who's been watching the YouTube channel. It's been really good. Thank you so much for your subscriptions, and I'm sorry to everybody about my endless messages asking you all to subscribe by November the 2nd. It's just lots of people have a free thing that ends on September the 2nd, and one of my subscribers said, you've got to stop saying it's $50 a year. You just need to say it's a cup of coffee a month. It's a cup of coffee a month. So I'm trying to train myself to say it's a cup of coffee a month. It's a cup of coffee a month. But I really, really do appreciate all the subscriptions. And I'm trying to keep my subscription messages different rather than just using the standard one that comes up on Substack. And some of you have been kind enough to comment, yeah, this t-shirt's absolute gem, and I love it. And anyway, I'll be back in the suit and tie tomorrow. And thank you very much. Have a good evening. Bye. Yes, Shauna Kay. Yeah, I did a chat with Shauna, the Vintage Read show. So I did that this morning. I had my suit and tie on for that. You'll be glad to hear. And I didn't have the button unbuttoned. Like, some people are not happy with the way I buttoned my jacket. And that was fair enough. But yeah, Shauna's brilliant, and I love talking to Shauna. She has this calming, I want to say maternal presence to her. So it was really lovely to talk to Shauna. So please do watch that. I've put a link into it in the Substack. And oh yeah, then there's this other story tonight actually, which is quite interesting, about King Charles celebrating Diwali at the Neasden Temple. So the Neasden Temple is this sort of famous temple in London that's very colourful and very dramatic. I think Charles looks brilliant with all his flowers and his robes all around him. And yeah, no, not $50 for the cup of coffee a month. $4 a month, a cup of coffee a month. That's what I meant to say, Elizabeth R. Yeah, I think it is a cup of coffee. I mean, a cup of coffee isn't the same here, but last time I was in New York, a cup of coffee was like $7.50 for a cup of coffee with the tip and the tax. I couldn't quite believe it. So it's certainly cheaper than a designer cup of coffee, and considerably more or less froth, depending on the way that you look at it. No, but yeah. So Charles at Neasden Temple. So the pictures are cool. I'm going to actually try and just post a few of the pictures later. And Yeah, so thanks a million, everybody, for supporting this. It's been a wild ride, and thanks for coming along with me. And thank you for the marketing advice that I've been getting from my subscribers. Thank you for the audio visual advice, which has been very useful. I haven't received any writing advice yet, so I'm assuming that the writing's okay, which is my main responsibility. But yeah, so thanks very much, everybody. It means a lot. And I don't know, the week ahead, I mean, it's funny, the whole Royal Lodge thing. And noticing a definite quietening down of chatter makes me start to wonder, maybe we're not going anywhere. Maybe no one's going anywhere in the immediate future. I do think it's they have got a problem, which is that Andrew, the same problem that they've always had, right? Andrew has a cast iron lease. It's worth tens of millions of dollars, and he's not going to give it up for nothing. And at the center of the whole thing about the property, that's the kind of lump at the middle of it that no one can digest or figure out what the solution to it is. And I do think that really, I think there's a couple of solutions that occur to me. Number one, you pay him off out of Charles's private funds. He's a rich man privately, fortune often estimated at, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds. That is definitely one solution. The other solution, which I think William might have to go for in the end if this drags on into his reign, which is a fairly terrifying thought. But if this does drag on into William's reign, I think they're going to have to allow the police to investigate it. I think they're going to have to do more than allow the police. They're going to have to encourage the police to investigate it, and they're going to have to cooperate with it. And I think that if Andrew is found to have committed a crime, I think he needs to be publicly punished as any other person would be. And I don't know why it feels so outrageous and so unreasonable to say that he should face the same consequences as anyone else in the country. I don't know why that feels so. Why does that feel even remotely controversial? It shouldn't be controversial. But people keep saying, the line that you're hearing from Andrew's mates is, why should he give everything up? It's never going to be enough. They're just going to demand more. They're just going to demand that he's in sackcloth and ashes, and that he crawls up the side of Mount Everest on his hands and knees while being flayed by whatever. Like, they keep saying there's nothing you can with, but I think that actually police action and police prosecution would be a massive line in the sand, and would actually, I think it would just show that the royal family have taken this seriously. So I wonder if in the end that's what it will come down to. I know Andrew Loney definitely thinks that he should be properly investigated and properly prosecuted. So we shall see. Anyway, I must go. Thank you very much. I will see you all tomorrow when I will be back with my friend, Mr. Tim Tiemann. Bye.